Everyone wants to know how to backflip. And in this video, we will teach you how to backflip in a safe manner with as little equipment as possible. We'll also give you a breakdown of the backflip and introduce drills and progressions all the way from beginner level to the backflip. Let's start off with a technical breakdown of the backflip. The backflip starts with a strong arm swing that should pass the lowest position as you reach the deepest position of the jump. The downward force of the swing will create a spring-like effect in the jump as you stretch out and make yourself as tall as possible, completing the jump before you tuck in your knees, throwing your arms down without throwing your upper body forward, and then you are spotting and bracing for the landing. If all that overwhelmed you, don't worry, we will go through the hows and the whys, so let's get started. So the first step to learning backflips is obviously getting comfortable with rotations. Now we're going to introduce a bunch of drills that you can use to learn the rotational part of the backflip.
Yeah, and of course we're going to start with the easiest first, which is doing a normal back roll. Same like a child that starts to learn how to walk, it doesn't start just standing up and sprinting, it's more about crawling first. So this is our crawling section, where we just sit down on the floor and get used to rolling backwards. So the first thing that you want to understand is, again, the motion comes from the legs. So once I lay down on my back, my leg's going to pull up and I'm going to bring my hands next to my ears. For the head, it can be smart in the beginning to rotate a little bit to the side so you're not like really putting a lot of pressure on your neck and it's easier to go over it. You can do this for a couple of times, just getting used to the motion and pulling the energy with your knees towards your chest. Maybe Sandra can demonstrate one where we're gonna go all the way over our neck and keeping the chin close to our chest. A little bit more momentum and he gets over it.
So once you sort of get comfortable with back rolls, I think it's essential to start to think about how you can use your knees and your core to create rotation. So the next drill will sort of be to be more mindful of what's actually happening. So imagine starting a laying backflip. So you're throwing your arms up, and instead of collapsing in your core, we keep your core tight and throw your backwards. So when you do this with a little bit of momentum, it goes more or less like this. I'm basically doing a laying backflip.
Yeah.
And if you want to make this even more challenging, you can try starting from this position.
Later on, when you get more confident, it's better to get closer to the actual backflip motion. So in the end, what we're going to do is we want to stand, we want to jump up, rotate and land back on our feet. So how can we progress a little bit more towards this motion? It's by starting in a standing position. So now we don't sit or start laying down, we start standing up and maybe even mimic the motion of the backflip. So we're going to see Sandra gets ready for the backflip, he brings his hips down to his heels and he starts rolling. Now he got way more energy out of it instead of just sitting down, and this is actually why you want to go with the back roll, to be able to do it dynamically and safe and understand the technique, how to bring your knees to your chest to roll all the way over your head.
Once we get hang of rolling on the ground, we want to get further up from the ground. And before we start jumping into the roll, or doing a backflip as it's called, let's start by doing elevated back rolls. You can do this on elevated surfaces, on boxes if you have, or you can use a partner and a friend. So your partner's on all four. It's important that hip is shoulder height, like this. And you basically sit on the upper back of your partner. From here, you basically want to roll backwards, throw your hands on the ground while throwing your knees over to create rotation. Let's give it a go. But there are a couple of common mistakes here. One of them is not using your legs to create rotation. You need to use your legs and your knees to throw them over. And it's gonna be super hard for your partner. Once you feel comfortable with this partner back roll or doing it from an elevated surface, you can actually try doing it with your partner sideways. So if you don't have a partner, the equivalent here would sort of be to use a box where you start standing on the ground and the box is about between your knees and your hips. So in this case, Theo here is gonna be my box. And you're basically just gonna sit down, throw your hands backwards and towards the ground. You look for the ground and throw your knees over. Yeah, it's a little bit scary in the beginning if you're not used to it, but it's a super good drill to get used to backflip rotations.
Really good. And for the spotter in this case, it's really important to be stable, because if you do not make use of your elbows on your knees, you might probably gonna crack.
A couple of ways you can adjust these drills to less equipment, and if you don't have a partner, you can use your bed to back roll out of your bed. You can use your sofa, and if you have access to bars or gymnastics rings or parallel bars, you can try to do rotations with these to just get used to turning around back. The most common reason for backflip failure
is freezing.
Yeah. It's getting afraid, it's getting scared, and it's stopping when you're upside down, landing on your head. So the way to prevent this, and the way to prevent what I would say is 95% of all backflip failure, is to just get super comfortable turning backwards. Learning to brace with your hands.
The more you practice it in a safe environment, the more confident you will become with it, and you're going to reduce the risk of injury.
Yeah, I mean, even under rotating a backflip is not dangerous if you know how to handle it. It's not dangerous. That's how you're gonna sneeze after this video, by the way. So another back rolling move that is great in order to get comfortable rotating backwards for a backflip is back-to-back rollover.
Yes. So I'm just gonna hold my hands like this, and Sandra is putting his hands into mine from on top. And we're gonna open the arms and we're gonna rotate 180 degrees. You can see that my hands are in a good position so I can pull down, and Sandra's arms are open. Now I'm gonna pull him over my back. What I need to do is I squat a little bit down to defend his lower back, and then we're gonna put our head to the right side, both of us, so we don't hit our head. Once we're here, Sandra is keeping tension in his shoulders, pulls the knees to his chest, so I can lift him over. As you can see, it's super stable, it's super secure.
So a couple of things to keep in mind here is when you turn around, you're gonna look for the ground and spot your landing. That's essential in any kind of backflip drills.
And for practitioner, it's really important to keep stability in the shoulders, because otherwise it can be that you just overstretch because your spotter is just putting your arms down. And another mistake would be not to engage your abs, your core, and putting the knees in, and then you will just dangle on the back of the spotter and nothing happens, which can be a little bit chill, but actually it doesn't help you with your backflip.
Another important thing is to be 100% sure who is gonna be the flipper. You said you flip. Yeah. Only. Spider on my lens. Another great way of learning to backflip is approaching it from a Makako way. I recommend doing this in addition to the others actually, but it could be done solely from Makakos as well. So let's break down how you would approach a backflip from Makako. And then we're gonna show you how you can turn this into a backflip.
The Makako is basically a back handspring where you start with one hand already squatting on the floor, and you don't start in a standing position like you want to do a back handspring, but in a squatting position. So you're actually just going to go down and you choose which hand you want to use for the Makako. For me, it's the left one because I'm going to cartwheel from my left side. So it would be easier. Sorry. It would be easier for me to use my left hand. So what I'm going to do is I use my hand and I place it behind my back, and you can see that I rotate with my thumb pointing that direction and my fingers to the ocean. This helps to open up my shoulder. I'm going to make use of my second arm to pull in between my legs all the way up. I'm going to push my hips up, and the energy is not going to Sandra, the energy is going this way, so I managed to go over the critical point, which is the center line over my wrist with my shoulder and my hip. So the motion gonna look like this, where I want to end up. Now, how do we progress? We start really small and in a crawling baby position again. So the first idea would just to be circle around your own hand. So you're here and you start running all the way around your hand to understand where your body will be in the beginning and in the end. Maybe Sandra can show us how we get closer from the running around ourselves to the flipping over our shoulder.
Alright, so imagine a circle with your hand in the center. First we want to practice a setup and a jump, swinging the arm and straightening the hips. The next step is to add a 180-degree twist, landing at the edge of the circle. Now the further along this circle we jump, the bigger an arm swing we're gonna need, and the more it's gonna look like an actual Makako. Eventually we want to swing our arms straight backwards, which will give us a proper Makako. Now let's discuss a few key points to consider when learning the Makako.
A little bit too much in a cartwheel in the beginning because you do something like this. Don't stress about it, but keep in mind that at one point you want to keep your arm all the way in one line with sky, and then for more or less a handstand position that you can exit. So your arm is gonna leading the direction where you want to go with your flip. So it's actually just learning not to place our hand on the floor before we start, but after the jump. So once we go down, it's not placing the hands here, but using it a little bit as a momentum to go all the way here. The more you go vertical, the better it will be for your back foot more. So try to bring your arms not over your shoulder, but more in the back with every pump that you do. So the first one would look like this. On the second one, you go a little bit higher. You're almost doing back handsprings now.
And we build our ways to go more and more backward. Raising with our hands is a super nice technique to learn when we're practicing backflips in order to stay safe. But eventually, we want to tuck in and create the proper backflip.
So how can we progress there? If we are able to do this little side angle backflip Makako version by ourselves, is there any way we can do it with a partner or again with some external support to get more close to the actual backflip?
Well, both of us, I think, agree that introducing spotting using a partner is a great way to get there in a safe way. And I just want to introduce like a super basic drill first, as sort of your first spotter drill. It's basically gonna carry your spotter around.
Yeah.
So basically, we're just gonna do like this. And then I'm gonna carry Theo, and he's gonna tuck in his knees and brace with his hands. Woohoo! This is just to sort of learn to know each other and get a little bit comfortable with each other. And then from there we can try and introduce a little bit more momentum into it.
So how do we spot once we are comfortable with like helping each other out? What's the first thing we would like to do?
The t-shirt trick, or the tank top trick in this case. Why don't you give us a brief breakdown?
So basically me as a spotter, I'm going to stand next to him, not too close and not too far away, like in a good position, and I'm going to use his tank top and I'm going to wrap my hand all the way in it and hold on tight. This will help once he is flipping if I kind of like lose his control or he's losing control, I will still be connected to him and can hold him on the shirt. Now what's important is once Sondre is going for the flip, is that he will not hit me in the face, because I will be standing next to him and will try to help him with the flip, and if he's putting his arm in a side angle, like I'm probably going to backflip but not him. So really try to go for a straight line with your arm as the practitioner. Perfect. Everyone is safe. Exactly. So do we want to demonstrate how it looks when we go for a full flip?
Let's go for it. So you wrap your hand safely in my shirt, and I'm gonna do a backflip. But in the beginning, I think it's nice to just keep my arms up, just for double safety in the beginning. To brace with my hands, just in case.
For the spotter, your macro arm, in this case, the free arm, will go under his hamstring, close to his knee, and I will help rotating his lower body around.
I think this drill is also where it's safe to start introducing, when you get comfortable, tucking with your hands as well.
Yes.
And remember, tucking with your hands, you're not throwing your upper body forwards, you're throwing your arms down to your knees.
Wow. Too much energy.
So that's one of the nice things about the t-shirt tricks as well, because now your hand was sort of stuck in me, so I didn't just flip away.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good example of one more thing that the spotter needs to keep in mind. Like, once your practitioner is landing, do not just let go of him. Do try to hold on to him until he's standing safely.
And this is sort of where we get comfortable with each other. And this is where you start to use your hands less and less. And then eventually we just want to remove the shirt.
So more shirt!
Yahoo! Now let's get into a standard spotter technique.
Yeah. Shall I flip?
Shirt. But in this case, you want your hand to be placed on your partner's lower back. The other one you want to have ready to flip over hamstrings of partner.
It was super easy.
Yeah, and a nice little trick, I mean, once you sort of get hang of the spotter technique, is as you flip legs over, keep your hand behind his back when he's landing. That way you will also prevent him from over-rotating.
Yeah. What is your right arm actually doing during the move?
So the right arm is supporting the lower back and pushing up, and actually helping to increase your partner's backflip height.
Exactly. That makes it much more easier for me to rotate all the way around, because I have more time and I feel some security under me, so I'm not afraid of just falling down.
So we are basically using the elevated back roll, just with a bicep curl instead.
Let's do it one more time?
Yeah. So which brings me to another point though. If your arm is straight and you're far away from your spotter, there's very limited how much you can actually pull with this arm. So you want a bend in your arm, and you want to be close enough to actually support and push up your spotter's lower back. So to sum things up, when spotting your partner in a backflip, you want to not be too close, not be too far away. You want to support your partner's lower back and help them increase the height of their backflip. You want to use the other arm to throw their legs around to create rotation. Make sure they're not over-rotating by supporting their back. And obviously remember all the 100 other cues regarding the actual backflip. If you are a good spotter, you can actually prevent your partner from getting injured, even if he freezes upside down. So what happens when people freezes usually is that they basically forget to throw their legs over and backwards and to tuck in their knees. So now I really had to go in there and sort of carry him over, more or less.
But still no injuries, it's super safe.
Yeah, it is, especially if you have soft ground. So as soon as you feel comfortable doing backflips, back rolls off of things, partner backflips, spotting, stuff like this, it's essential to actually start practicing backflips by yourself. And the way to do this safely is to use soft surfaces like sand, preferably even softer like mattresses or foam pits, or a good one, a pool. because most people can somehow get access to a pool, if it's a public swimming pool or whatever. Use whatever you got just to get comfortable flipping around.
Also, trampolines or jumping houses, a very good place to practice because it will give you some extra energy when you jump and make it easier.
And most bouldering gyms have like super thick crash pads that you can use to practice as well. So try and get creative and try and be safe. A few common mistakes here: stopping with your arms before you reach the pop position, and also starting to flip or you finish the jump. That's actually very common. I guess a good cue here is to imagine getting as tall as possible and leaving the ground before you start throwing your head back and before you start tucking in your knees. The main actor in backflip rotation is your legs, and the muscle you use is basically your core. I promise you, after doing 20 backflips, you'll get super sore in your abs. Yeah. What often happens, especially in beginners, is that they think so much about tucking with their hands. So what happens is their upper body, it goes forward. And what happens if you try to throw your knees up and then your upper body forwards? You get no rotation. So one thing that I actually like to eliminate from the beginning phase of learning the backflip is the arm tuck. It really is enough to use your knees properly.
Yeah.
So, and also keeping your arms up in a backflip and focusing on creating rotation with your lower body will also enable you to use your arms in case of under rotation. Learn to brace with your arms and do a semi backhand spring.
Be jumping, arms up,
And then in here.
exactly. So the rotation just really comes from the leg, and I have my arms up all the time. And I don't go for this mistake where I pull my hands toward my knee.
You can land these kinds of backflips too. I mean, it's possible, even though you don't get as fast rotation. And it's an ugly backflip, but it's a safe backflip.
Yeah.
Obviously, the backflip is a super technical skill. And in addition to learning all of these moves isolated, we want to be able to combine everything. And one thing that's going to buy you some time is being able to jump high. I've actually seen that a lot of people that I taught backflip to, if they are able to jump high, they learn the backflip much quicker. So learning to jump high and increasing your leg strength is definitely going to help with your backflip. Now, we're not going to go into super details about this right now, and I'm actually in the process of experimenting with and creating a vertical jump program. So be sure to check that out when it becomes available. Just another thing, core strength is actually a big thing because you create rotation by doing this. So doing hanging leg raises is a super good way of gaining the core strength needed for backflips, and especially focusing on doing them explosively. I mean, you can start by using one knee, then progress to two knees, then you can progress to one straight leg and one bent knee, two straight legs, and then you can try to get them more and more and more explosive, and it will 100% help you with your backflip rotation. Right. So basically, jumping higher, rotating faster. It's quite obvious that it'll help your backflip, right?
Yeah.
With all of this, we think you now have what you need in your toolbox to be able to safely approach the backflip.
Always keep in mind that we are doing this as professionals and we have been doing it for over a decade. So don't be too frustrated if you don't learn it within a week or a month or how long it takes you. And it's a marathon, it's not a sprint.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to check out Theo's YouTube channel,
Mindset of Theo.
Mindset of Theo. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Perfect. Bye-bye.
It's backflip. 1, 2. Ah!
That was a shitty one. It was super shitty. I almost let it away. Well, we're there and that was good.
Ow! 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 Sand is so hot. Alright.